Lone Druid is probably the hero that benefited the most from the introduction of neutral items in 723. The simple reason for that is that you have 12 slots instead of 6. This just means you have a lot more room, and this extra room can be used to store all sorts of useful neutral items. So let's go through the neutral items and see which ones are the most useful on Lone Druid.
My holiness deepens.
Welcome to the Judge of Obelisk. So what are the neutral items that Lone Druid really likes? So first of all, on the hero himself, there aren't really any items that are particularly great. It's more like you can take items that are more of the supporty kind, that just take up a slot and give you some sort of bonus. And these items are great just because you have the slots. And then there's stat items which are okay on Lone Druid. You do actually do a reasonable amount of right clicking with the hero as well. So these items are fine, but they're usually better on some other hero in your team. But oftentimes these heroes grow out of these items. Oftentimes your other core heroes at some point run out of slots, and then these smaller items, these smaller stat items, get left in the fountain, and then you can pick them up and still get some benefit from them. Lone Druid uses very little mana, so mana items are not particularly useful, and you also have plenty of sustain already with your Spirit Link, so HP regen is also not particularly valuable. On the bear, you just need the classic right-click items that give you damage, attack speed, as well as items that give you armor. Armor is just very valuable on the bear because you typically buy a Mask of Madness, which costs armor to activate, and then you typically don't take the level 15 talent that gives you 10 armor. You'd rather have the talent for Savage Roar. That cooldown reduction is very valuable and very strong, so you're really desperate for armor, and any sort of neutral item that can help you out in that regard is much appreciated. Okay, so let's go through the list. Keen Optic is pretty rubbish, obviously. Poor Man's Shield is decent. If you put this on a hero, you get a little bit of damage, a little bit of attack speed, and also damage block is decent. You could also put this on your bear. He benefits a lot from the damage block because you can't buy Stout Shield anymore, and he doesn't get the passive damage block that melee heroes get. Then you have the Iron Talon, which is, not the greatest item, but it's okay. You just put this in your bear, and you find this, you put your regular Quelling Blade on your hero if you have room, and then when you run out of room, you sell the Quelling Blade. Then we have the Ironwood Tree. This is a stat item, so not the greatest typically on Lone Druid. Usually there's better heroes in your team to have this. So you hand this off to them at the start, and then later on in the game when they run out of slots, you can scoop this up. Royal Jelly is best left to your teammates. You can't cast this on your bear, and you don't need the regen on your hero, so leave this to your allies. Mango Tree is usually just planted for vision on some cliff, and the mangoes can be nice on Lone Druid to have if you're playing against some sort of mana burning hero, and then you can always just pop a mango or two and get off your spells if needed, and you have the slots available usually to carry a couple of mangoes around. Then we have the Ocean Heart, another stat item best left to your allies, also the regen not particularly useful. Broom Handle is great on your bear, the attack range helps out quite a bit, and of course damage and especially armor is very valuable on your bear. Then we have the Shovel. This gives you a little bit of HP, but more importantly gives you the active, which gives you either a bounty rune, a salve, 2 town portal scrolls, or it summons a hostile goblin. At the start, this on average gives you around 100 GPM for your team if you add up the value of those bounty runes to your entire team, as well as the value of those salves and TPs. It's spread out over your team, but this can be still very valuable. It's basically like having 100 GPM, which also goes up over the course of the game as those bounty runes get more valuable. So it's a great item to carry around. Then we have Faded Brooch, which is not particularly useful, and the movement speed is nice, but the mana is not really necessary. And same goes for Arcane Ring. Armor is nice, but just leave this to someone else on your team who can make better use of the int and the mana. On to tier 2. Here we have the Growth Bow, which is not the greatest on Lone Druid. If no one on your team wants this, and I guess you can carry it around, but it's just much better on some other heroes. Then we have Vampire Fangs, which are nice, I guess, on the bear. Get some extra lifesteal, but it's not the greatest item. We have Ring of Aquila, which is decent to have on your hero. If you have some other hero on your team who is an agility core, give this to him. But otherwise, it's a nice addition here. Gives a nice aura and some nice stats. And this aura also stacks with all the other auras. It stacks with Basilius, it stacks with Buckler, it stacks with Vlad's. There's no problems there. Then we have Pupil's Gift, which gives you 13 to secondary stats, so 13 int and 13 strength. 13 int is pretty useless, 13 strength is okay, but usually there's much better heroes to carry this item. And then we have Imp Claw, which is great for your bat to imp slap those opponents, and gives you this little bit of a crit every 8 seconds, but more importantly 24 damage, just a nice DPS item. Put this on your bear and enjoy. Philosopher's Stone is a decent item on Lone Druid, gives you this GPM bonus, this useless mana bonus, but it also costs you 35 attack damage, which is actually a significant drawback on Lone Druid, because you do end up attacking quite a bit with your main hero, so oftentimes it is better left to support heroes. But if no one else wants to carry this around, might as well take it. Nether Shawl is pretty useless for Lone Druid. Dragon Scale is a great item to have on your bear, just the HP regen is decent and the armor is very strong, and this passive is of course nice. And then once you run out of slots on your bear, you can put this on your hero and still get the benefit of the passive at least. The armor and the HP regen on your main hero is not that useful. Essence Ring is a pretty good item to have on your druid, but usually there's heroes in your team who can make better use of this. Vambrace is one of these stat items that are definitely better left to your teammates, and then later on when they run out of slots you can scoop this up and have a pretty good stat item. At least if they made it out of bracers or wraith bands. The Null Talisman version is not that useful for Lone Druid. Clumsy Net is quite good on Lone Druid for the active mainly, it just gives you a nice reliable disable, but the mana regen and the attributes are usually better used on some other heroes, so probably best to leave this to some support in your team as long as they have the slots. As far as tier 3 goes, Repack It is one of those items where it doesn't really matter who carries this item, it's just mostly about the active. Craggy Coat is okay. It gives you a lot of armor but lowers your attack speed, so you don't want this on your bear. But you can definitely put this on your hero if no one else in your team needs this item. Of course it cuts down on your DPS, but extra armor makes you a lot tankier. And we have Fairy Fire, which is sort of a combination of damage item and instant healing. This has 3 charges now, so you can use it twice and still have the 35 damage item lying around. This is quite a strong item. You can use it on either hero or the bear. If your bear has slots, put it in the bear, otherwise on the hero. This is a useful item. Use it to heal yourself if needed, and of course just a solid DPS item. Then we have Quickening Charm, HP regen, which you don't need, and cooldown reduction, which is actually kind of useful on your Lone Druid. You have 3 relevant active spells, so cooldown reduction is actually quite good, but there's just usually heroes on your team where this is even more important, so usually give it to them. Spider Legs is actually a great item on your bear. Gives you so much movement speed. It also, the active also stacks with Face Boots active, but probably when you find this item, if there's a hero on your team that really benefits from this movement speed, give it to them. For example, in the game I covered yesterday where Bulldog was playing Lone Druid, he had a Clockwork on his team, and Clockwork could make a lot of use out of those spider legs, often getting out from very sticky situations thanks to being able to walk over cliffs and trees. But usually this item is just really good on the bear. Just put this on the bear and transfer your phase boots to your main hero. Enchanted Quiver is an item that's great on just about any ranged hero, as long as you have the slot, because it just adds a fixed amount of damage every, 8 seconds. So since you have the slots, usually since you have a ranged hero, at least most of the time, this is actually quite a strong item to have on Lone Druid. Then we have Paladin Sword. This gives you a lot of sustain if you put this on your bear. It gives at least some damage. 17 damage is not the greatest for a tier 3 item, but it's something. And of course it also amplifies your regen, your lifesteal and so on. So it's a decent item on the bear. Overdestruction is more than just decent. It's I think clearly the best of these tier 3 items for Lone Druids. It just fits your hero so well. Armor reduction is great. It stacks the Desolator. You have this slow, 30% slow, just allows you to do much easier stick on targets. And this is a problem that Lone Druid definitely has, especially these days when you most of the time don't go for Radiance. So being kited is a big issue, and Overdestruction definitely helps with that a lot. This passive also works against buildings, so it also helps you tear down those structures much more quickly. Then we have Titan Sliver. The magic resistance and status resistance would be quite good on Lone Druid's bear, but the base damage is pretty useless because you only have 25 base damage. So it's usually better heroes to take this item. Then we have the Telescope, which is just an aura item. And there's no particular synergy that Lone Druid has with this item, but since you have the slots, you can just carry this around and help out your team. Mindbreaker is a great DPS item, just gives you 25 attack speed and damage, which the bear likes a lot, as well as this little silence. This is probably the second best tier 3 item on Lone Druid after the Overdestruction, so definitely watch out for this one. It's just great that it's a DPS item that doesn't rely on stats or anything like that, so it's perfectly suitable to your Spirit Bear. Once we get into tier 4, we have these items that just don't drop all that often. Like 40-minute games aren't actually that frequent in this patch, and if you do get these games, they're usually over very quickly before you can make much use out of these items. But still, let's go over these quickly. Witless Shaco is great, or it would be great if you had the mana for it. So if you have some other stat items or other mana items, whatever, that give you enough mana on your main hero to use this and still have enough mana left over to use all your regular spells, then this is a good item, but usually there's heroes in your team that like this more than you do. Timeless Relic is not particularly useful on Lone Druids. Spell Prism is quite good for the cooldown reduction, but these other bonuses, 12 attributes and 4 mana regen, are usually much better on some other heroes. So usually this is best left to your teammates. It's a very, very strong item on a lot of other heroes, and just a mediocre item on Lone Druids, so leave it to your allies. Princess Knife is a great item to have on your main hero. It's basically just a disable. It doesn't really care what kind of hero this is on. Works great on a support, and for the same reason also works great on Lone Druid. Then we have Flicker, which is an item that's great on some particular heroes, who is mostly great on the heroes that have some sort of other mobility spell, and this is often an item that if they get in trouble with these kind of heroes, they can use Flicker, and this buys them enough time for the other mobility stuff to go online. For Lone Druid, this is not that great, but if no one else in your team wants this, you can take it, but it's not that great. Ninja Gear is more of a carry style item. Because Lone Druid doesn't have stats on his bear, this is not particularly good. So if you have any sort of other agility hero in your team that's a core, leave this to them. Otherwise, I guess take it for the little bit of DPS it adds and the movement speed on your main hero. And we have Illusionist Cape. Again, same story. It's best on some sort of carry hero that wants to have stats, so this is not particularly useful. Havoc Hammer is again an item that's better on other heroes. If you have some sort of tanky frontliner kind of hero, often an offlaner. This is great on them. On Lone Druid, it's still fine, I guess, if no one else wants to have it, but almost always going to be another hero who wants this more than you do. Magic Lamp, a lot of survivability in this item, makes you almost unkillable, because the problem with Lone Druid is that it can be bursted, but if they don't burst you, just leave so much life from your Spirit Link that it's very hard for them to actually focus you down, at least as long as your bear is alive. This can be quite a strong item on Lone Druid, but again, there's often other heroes in your team who want this even more than you do. Then we have the Leveler. 50 attack speed is great, obviously, and bonus building damage is very strong on Lone Druid. It stacks with your regular Demolish, so this is quite strong. Minotaur Horn is best left to other heroes. Problem is that your main hero would like the strength, but the BKB is not very useful on him, and the magic community might be useful on the bear, but the bear doesn't benefit from the strength, so other heroes are just gonna find this a lot more useful than you will. And then the Tier 5 items, I'm not gonna go through all of these, just for the reason that they come up so rarely. 70-minute games are incredibly rare these days, so I'm just gonna talk about Stygian Desolator, which is great on Lone Druid. It's stacked with Desolator, it's basically double Desolator. So if you have a regular Desolator and this one, you basically have triple Desolator, and that is a lot of fun, a lot of damage. Then we also have the Pirate Head. 250 attack speed is obviously great on your bear. These are, I think, are the two main items to look out for in Tier 5, but honestly all these items are pretty good, but most of them are better on other kinds of heroes. So the most important items from each tier to watch out for are the Broom Handle for your bear, the Trusty Shovel for your hero. In Tier 2 it's the Imp Claw, just for the DPS it gives you, and the Dragon Scale. For Tier 3 you want to watch out for the Overdestruction, the most important item. Mindbreaker also great, and Red Fairy Fire also very strong. And then just use Telescope or Enchanted Quiver on your main hero, not for the great synergy, but just because you have the slots. For Tier 4 you want the Leveler on your bear, and you want the Princess Knife on your hero. And then for Tier 5, if you can get that far, Stygian Desolator and Pirate Head are of course excellent. But just on the whole, there's a lot of items in here that are kind of mediocre on Lone Druids, but they have some sort of useful effect. And so it's a lot more about quantity than quality. And just for the simple fact that you have twice as many slots as everyone else, it just means you can make a lot of use of all these items that in a typical game just end up sitting in Fountain because no one has room for them anymore. Well, you always have room, you have 12 slots, so you can make use of all of these lower tier items that just end up sitting in the Fountain in most games. Coming up on this channel is going to be item and skill build guides for Lone Druid and Chen, so if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe and ring the bell. And in the meantime, I have some more Lone Druid content for you, so go watch that next, and Obelisk building, I'll see you there.